So a warm welcome on behalf of my colleagues from the School of History here at St Andrews. What we'd like to do is give you a very brief overview on what we offer, how the degree works, the range of topics that we offer, and we simply hope that it gives you somewhat an insight of what to expect when you choose to come to St Andrews. I think there are a number of special things, but if I had to highlight one thing in particular, I think as from day one, starting teaching in year one, first semester, it's the very small group teaching. We try throughout the 4 years that you would be here to keep numbers small. That is, in first and second year we try to keep numbers at 6 or 7. When you move on to honours level, that is third and fourth year, we try to keep numbers at around 15. But the majority of classes that you will find in St Andrews are anywhere between perhaps 5 and 10 students, and that is something that I find, and most of my colleagues I guess would agree, find being very special to St Andrews. Let me just say a few words on what to expect here and how the degree works. It's basically a 4-year degree split into 2 parts. The first 2 parts is what we call sub-honours or pre-honours, and the third and fourth year is the honours period, junior honours third year and fourth year being senior honours. And I think the beauty is that throughout the first 2 years, at least looking at history and what we offer, you could expect very broad survey courses based on usually 3 lectures per week, where you sit with the entire cohort, for example, a module that stretches from the late 18th century, from the French Revolution all the way to the fall of communism and the Berlin Wall. So 11 weeks of teaching based on 3 lectures a week, but again the beautiful part is that you come from the lectures and you sit in very small class tutorials, anything between 5 and 7 students, and this is really where you have the chance to interact with peers, with professors, with tutors, and that is the way how we teach at sub-honours level throughout the first 2 years. You then move on to honours, first year junior honours, second year senior honours, and you have a broad range of choices of modules which in third year run for a semester each, and it ranges really from the early medieval period to late modern continental European history, British history, and more recently also moving into global history, Asian history. And perhaps one of the best parts I find personally teaching here is in fourth year, where we offer so-called special subjects. Again, it's based on very, very small groups. For instance, I teach on the German Enlightenment. It ranges across 2 semesters, again based on small groups, anything between 3, 4, up to 7 students. And again, the beauty is you get to know the students, you work very closely once a week, usually on the Wednesday morning for 3 hours, very closely on primary sources, secondary sources. And again, it's the time that you have to develop sort of a spirit with the group, again, with a small group, you know the names, you know the faces, and this is very roughly how the degree is structured. The way the degree works in total, again, is perhaps saying there are 2 distinct phases. There's sub-honours for the first 2 years and then honours for year 3 and 4. And again, I think one of the strengths of that slightly longer, compared to the English system, the slightly longer degree, you have a fourth year, is that throughout the first 2 years at sub-honours, you have a quite broad range of choosing and dipping into a subject. So for instance, we do get quite a lot of students who may think initially they just come in for one module, let's say a module in second semester, first year, dipping into modern history briefly, but perhaps coming from geography, modern languages. Often they stay with us for a longer period of time, but that is the beauty of the first 2 years, that you have a broad range where you can try and see and find your way into St Andrews for the first 2 years before you make your final choice. There's actually a variety of different programs that you could study at St Andrews. There is, first of all, the general history degree that you can study, which offers you the broad range of mixing different modules from different areas, from medieval to the late modern period. There's also the single modern history degree. There is a medieval degree that you can study. You can also specialize in Scottish history or Middle Eastern studies. So those are the 5 different degrees that we offer. And then there's also variety in whether or not you want to specialize, let's say, in history or single honours, modern or medieval history, or whether you prefer to combine this with a different subject. A very popular choice is doing history or modern history with IR, international relations. Art history philosophy in combination with one of the history degrees is also a very popular choice, and again it gives you the broad variety of how you wish to combine different degree elements. In terms of getting you perhaps a better idea of what St. Andrews can offer and what the history department can offer, yes, perhaps the degree comes first, but beyond this there is a history society that offers even a broader, let's say, a social aspect beyond the more narrow curriculum requirements. Then, of course, and again, perhaps it comes back to the very small student numbers that we have in classes, that by the time you move on to honours into third or fourth year, you know your peers, it's a small place, you bump into each other also beyond classroom activity. So I think again this is one aspect that makes St. Andrews special, and it does feed into overall the very high student satisfaction that we get back from feedback. So where would you end up after 4 years at St. Andrews in history, or history in combination with a different subject? It's a variety of different fields where students move on to. There is, of course, the lure into academia and staying faithful to history for another year for the MLit program, and from there perhaps moving on to do a PhD. But beyond that, and this is what we try to stress throughout the 4 years, looking at transferable skills, employability aspects, learning how to present, whether in writing or in presentations and group presentations. Our students are very successful in getting into, whether this is law school and a variety of other fields, into, of course, museums, art history fields. Journalism is yet another field where some of our students tend to go to. Politics, some are find appealing. So it is perhaps a less clearly defined field as in other subjects, but students by and large go very successfully into a broad variety of different fields of employability.